Well, Waino has called it a career, and what a weekend it was at Busch. Coming up on Be Shafe Daily. What's going on, everybody, and welcome in to this edition of Be Shafe Daily. Brenden Schaeffer here with you in the evening hours of Sunday, October 1st, 2023. The 2023 St. Louis Cardinals season is now in the books. 71 wins, 91 losses. That's where the Cardinals end up on the campaign from hell, right? The season that just never did get on the right track for the Cardinals. As many times as we said, hey, this is not going well, you're eventually going to run out of time to fix it. Well, we know by now that the Cardinals ran out of time to fix it. They ran out of time really ahead of the trade deadline on August 1st, and they made the moves that they made, essentially waving the white flag on the season. So we've known now for a couple of months that this was not going to be their year, but there's a lot of angst, a lot of consternation, I think, about that fact. And the message from the Cardinals is pretty clear in everything that John Mozeliak, Ollie Marmol, and others have said is that they need to get it fixed, and they need to do so immediately. Heard a lot from Ollie Marmol today on Sunday, the final game of the Cardinals season, game 162. Some good insight that we'll be able to share here on the podcast in the days ahead. But today I do want to focus this episode of Be Shafe Daily on Adam Wainwright, because today was the final day of Waino's Major League career, of his Cardinals career, and it was a really special day, a really special weekend at Busch Stadium as the Cardinals pulled out all the stops to honor the career of Adam Wainwright as a St. Louis Cardinal. So we're going to talk about that tonight on Be Shafe Daily as we get into a discussion of some of our favorite moments from the retirement ceremony from Sunday. I'll talk about Saturday as well, because I was not there covering Saturday's game, but I did get a dozen tickets for my family, and I wanted to take everybody to a Cardinal game. So we did that on Saturday, and it just so happened to be the night that Adam Wainwright did his concert, which was kind of neat. So we'll talk about Adam Wainwright today on the podcast. There will be plenty of time coming up for reflection on the season, but really not a lot of reflection on the season, because I know that Cardinals fans hearing me say that are probably thinking, look, we just lived it for 6 months. Please don't make us think about it anymore. But I want to do it through the lens of like looking forward. Who is on this roster and who needs to be? Who's on this Cardinals roster that's going to be around for 2024? We'll sort of begin to examine the various parts of this team and talk about all the players and kind of where they might fit moving forward. Because Adam Wainwright, in talking about the Cardinals beyond his time with the team, because that came to an end obviously today, but over this weekend at various times where he had a microphone in front of his face, he continued to predict really good things were yet to come for the Cardinals. He said, I can't wait to be on this field 2024, or at the stadium, I think he said, not on this field, but at the stadium, watching the confetti fall on the field for the 2024 World Champion Cardinals. He's saying a lot of things like that, and you might be hearing it thinking, okay, very optimistic of you, Waino. That's kind of in your nature. But he believes, and he said the line, given the whole country singer nature of it all for Adam Wainwright, who has the country songs that he played on Saturday night, invoked another country song, and he said, the house don't fall if the bones are good, and believes that the Cardinals do have some good bones. But interesting line from Ollie Marmol earlier Sunday morning that I think was the line of the day as it pertains to the look ahead. Not the line of the day related to what today was really about, which was Adam Wainwright. But if you were trying to get a jump start on thinking about next year's team and what it might take to fix this, Ollie Marmol, in his pregame media session with the writers group on Sunday early afternoon, late morning, had an interesting comment where he was asked basically what's the first step toward righting the ship here. And this was a quote that Jeff Jones shared from that session. It's not audio that we can play because that was said in a writer's pregame conversation with Ollie in his office, but we can read the quote for you. And I'll read it straight here from Jeff's Twitter so I don't have to go find it on my phone. It said, quote, I want a clubhouse full of guys that has one thing on their minds, and it's not themselves. It's winning a championship. So you start out by weeding those out. Weeding out the guys that think about something other than winning a championship, that maybe are a little too self-centric, a little too focused on what they've got going on rather than the team. That sort of seems to be the implication. And that was kind of a jarring comment, honestly, to hear this morning. And honestly, I think you might even get more candor from not only Ollie, but the rest of the organization kind of after the season is officially done. I think sometime next week, we'll get the end of season press conference wrap up. And by then, you figure a lot of different conversations will have taken place with a number of players. And you may have a better idea of, when John Mozeliak gets asked about certain guys or certain situations, by situations, I mean the rotation, the outfield group, etc., you may be able to start reading through some tea leaves to figure out, okay, where do the Cardinals stand as an organization on certain players? So we're going to get into all of that as time goes on. I did want to bring that up because as it pertains to Wainwright's comment about the bones of the organization, there are some talented players to work with in terms of turning things around. But for Adam Wainwright's prediction, I think his premonition to come true, that the Cardinals will be the 2024 World Series champions, a lot's going to have to change this offseason. And those who watch this team closely all of 2023 know that and realize that, which means there will be plenty for us to talk about. I do believe this will be the most active Cardinals offseason, the most interesting Cardinals offseason, the most storyline-filled Cardinals offseason that we have seen in a long, long time. Certainly since I started covering the team in 2016. And in the time since then, there have been 2 managerial changes. There's been a Paul Goldschmidt trade. There's been a Nolan Arenado trade. There have been a lot of things that have happened. This offseason is going to be the one that we're going to remember. And I'm not saying that's necessarily in a good way. I have kind of expressed confidence on this show about the idea that, hey, John Mozeliak and his staff, they realize what needs to be done. Ollie Marmol reiterated that a bunch today, was asked, well, do you feel like you have faith that it's going to turn around, that the front office is going to do the things that need to be done? And we'll get in more and more into these comments, and I'll quote them directly, and I'll give you guys some insight on exactly what was said, and stories will be written and have been written as well on those topics. But what stood out to me is Ollie Marmol basically saying, look, we know what needs to happen. Everybody is on the same page about what needs to happen. Is it difficult maybe to go out and get 3 starting pitchers in one off season? Sure, yeah, it is. Front office, though, knows that it needs to happen. I know that it needs to happen. So the goal seems very clear. The intention seems very clear. Will the Cardinals be able to pull it off in the offseason? I think it's going to have to be different from the past where you say, all right, they know what they kind of could use, but they're going to sort of hedge against that if it's too difficult to acquire the thing that they need because they feel like, yeah, they could fall back on these internal options and maybe scrape by and it'll be okay. I think they know now that that does not work. Not with the current iteration of this roster. So that's all of this to say. Subscribe to Be Safe Daily on Spotify and Apple Podcast and hit me up on YouTube. Appreciate you guys who have already joined the party on YouTube, youtube.com/@BSchaeffer12. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you will not miss any of our Cardinals audio, spoken, video content galore during this Cardinals offseason, which I do believe is going to be very, very eventful. And again, that doesn't necessarily just mean like, yeah, they're going to sign pitchers. They might even trade for a pitcher or two. But there are going to be some internal conversations that happen. What does the outfield group look like? What does the catching situation look like? Got to talk with Wilson Contreras after the game today. He said it should be a sad day. We should all be leaving the clubhouse here sad because we didn't have a good season. It was a sad year. It was a bad year. There's some things that can be learned from it, but he's not satisfied. And I think it's very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where the Cardinals exactly are on evaluating Wilson Contreras and his role, because a lot has been said, a lot has been made about maybe his deficiencies as a catcher versus, what their expectations were as an organization. We've talked this to death, but now we're to the offseason where the Cardinals can look at it and go, wow, Andrew Knizner, really had the command of our pitching staff in terms of game calling behind the plate. He also hit pretty well this year. I mean, we didn't expect that. The Cardinals internally didn't expect that, right? They wouldn't have gone out and gotten Wilson Contreras if they did. Ivan Herrera showed maybe some more metal, I think, than the Cardinals had anticipated from him. Because, again, if they had the catching prospect that they thought could be the heir apparent, they wouldn't have gone out and spent $80 million, whatever it was, on Contreras. I don't even remember the number offhand now. But they wouldn't have done those things. And $87.5 million. I knew I could come up with it. And then there's the other side of the coin of Wilson Contreras, actually one of the Cardinals' top hitters this year when it was all said and done. So how do you weigh that out? How do you weigh out guys that ended the season on the injured list? Guys like Tyler O'Neill. It's going to be a huge topic of conversation. Maybe not for long. If the situation is resolved early in the offseason, we'll see. Dylan Carlson, does he get another chance? Is he on the trade block? What happens to the center field job? Tommy Edman manning that spot with aplomb defensively toward the end of the season. Can he hit enough to justify his everyday role as a center fielder in a lineup that would also include Mason Wynn at shortstop, who's still coming along offensively, but is a very upside-heavy defensive shortstop? And the Cardinals have a lot of belief in him, so will they want to give him the reins of that job? And what's the trickle-down effect on the rest of the lineup? What's the trickle-down effect if they say Wilson Contreras isn't going to be our everyday catcher, we're going to use him differently? It's all speculative at this point, and that's what's going to make this offseason so interesting, because there are a number of moves and puzzle pieces the Cardinals could adjust and maneuver that I think would then have a kickback, a domino effect on everything else. And that's in the pitching group, that's in the position player group. It's just going to be really, really interesting, and there's a lot to unpack, I think, from all of this. I know I said, hey, today's going to be about Wainwright, and I talked for 10 minutes about other stuff. I just want to get everybody kind of geared up and into the mindset of, like, what's to come from this channel. But that's kind of what's on tap. Let's talk about what just happened, though. Adam Wainwright got the weekend of his dreams and said a number of times, like, he felt like he doesn't deserve this. He doesn't deserve all of the love and outpouring of support that he got from St. Louis over the past 3 days. That, of course, we all know is ridiculous. He's a very humble individual and has made a huge impact on a lot of people. That impact was on full display all weekend long. I kind of have been thinking throughout watching everything unfold on Sunday and then thinking back to Saturday night when Adam got a chance to do his concert. He rode in around, for those who weren't present at Busch Stadium on Saturday night, he did like the opening day right around in the truck, had the spotlight on him, so did a whole lap around the stadium. And then where they did the concert was right there above Freeze's lawn out in straightaway center field. But there's a concrete, area that's flat above the grassy knoll where they set up and could plug in their instruments and all that good stuff. And so that's where they did the concert from. And he got the opportunity to sing in the biggest venue that he's ever performed in that capacity. He said previously 800 people is probably the most people that saw him performing in the capacity that he did yesterday. But I was thinking, man, it's crazy how many Cardinals fans stuck around for that. But then again, it's not really that crazy because it's Adam Wainwright. The Cardinals could have announced that this guy was putting on a juggling act. He wants to try his hand at juggling after the game, and people would have stayed. They could have said, hey, Adam Wainwright's going to go sit out in shallow left center field and put together a puzzle, and y'all are welcome to watch him. And people would have stayed. They would have stayed to watch him put together the puzzle because that's how much St. Louis Cardinals fans love Adam Wainwright. And I know that a lot of the season, there's been a lot of negativity out there because of the way the season went for him. I don't think people understand the extent to which he was pitching injured all year. It's going to sound like excuses after it's over and the season didn't go his way. But I would remind people of a couple of things. One, a lot of times these athletes are going through things that we don't know about anyway. And that's not just in the cases where they don't perform well. When it comes out that they had all these things going on after they don't perform well, it does read a certain way. But the other side of that is the Cardinals didn't have a non-playoff season because of Adam Wainwright. They won 71 games this year and they lost 91 games. Adam Wainwright could have been Cy Young and they win maybe 80, 82 games. They still missed the playoffs. They missed the playoffs by 13 games plus whatever tiebreaker scenario would have been. I think the Marlins and Diamondbacks ended up with 84 wins. Marlins didn't have to play their game 162. They didn't have to go to New York on Monday to finish that out. I think they just said, all right, you're both in the playoffs. Diamondbacks, Marlins, you're in. Cubs, 83 and 79. The Cubs missed out by a game, basically, plus whatever the tiebreaker would have been. And the Reds right behind them. The Cardinals didn't miss the playoffs because of Adam Wainwright. So if you want to be angry about the season, do so. I mean, Ollie Marmol even said this morning, people should be pissed. people should be angry and calling for my head. That is part of being a sports fan. Your team doesn't perform. Whoever's got authority in that organization, the fans should be upset with them. Ollie said, that's what gets me up in the morning. I'm good with that. And Cardinals fans will say what they will about Ollie Marmol. I'll continue to say what I've said about him because I feel like I do have some insight and a look behind the curtain to see what he's all about. And if time should prove me wrong, then so be it. But I'll go down with that ship because I do believe that Ollie Marmol is a quality baseball man, has a quality baseball mind. And for all the comments that you see about, oh, he's arrogant, oh, he's this or that, when you see him explaining his decisions, explaining his processes, he's got a level of ego, right? You kind of have to have a little bit of a level of ego in that position to know that, like, I'm the dude that can bring us back and fix this. Ollie Marmol believes that he is the right manager to bring the Cardinals back to prominence and fix this situation. And again, if you're a Cardinals fan, I would think you wouldn't want it any other way. It comes off as arrogant, I suppose, when you lose 91 games. But what is he supposed to then do to placate the fan base? Say, oh, yeah, I'm in over my head. I didn't know it was going to be like this. 91 losses, man. They probably should hire somebody else. Like, what do Cardinals fans honestly want to hear from him? I think it's the pound of flesh thing, and I think there is no. And again, to Ollie's credit, like, there's nothing he can say that's going to. There's no words that can come out now that are going to make Cardinals fans go, oh, all right, I'm on board. I'm back in. They want results. And that's what he reiterated time and time again today. So he understands that completely. But, I think it's going to take those results before fans are going to be won over, and that's perfectly fine. It's why I shouldn't even spend that much time talking about it. But I brought it up to say also don't be angry about the notion that Adam Wainwright continued to play this year. Because that's not the reason the Cardinals. First of all, they didn't have the depth anyway behind him that it would have just been somebody else that struggled. Maybe not to quite the extent that he was when he was really at his lowest physically. But the Cardinals weren't going anywhere at that point. And just to let Wainwright ride it out and get to 200 wins was, I think, the right situation for everybody involved. But Wainwright, even at the end of a season that went the way that it did, got to feel and experience the outpouring of love and support that Cardinals fans still have for him. And I thought that was really cool, and it was all weekend long and featured a number of surprises as well. The ceremony on Sunday afternoon, Cardinals came up with a number of gifts for Wainwright and family. I thought the guitar was really cool. Nice touch to have his children write the inscriptions that were, I guess, inscribed to the back of the guitar. I didn't see it up close, but that was sort of the gist of it, that his kids had some messages that they wrote, and it was a Cardinals-themed, very nice guitar. Bill DeWitt III, team president, so the son of the owner, Bill DeWitt Jr. Bill DeWitt III, he talked about how he and Wainwright have had conversations just about their, sort of pursuing the passions and how Wainwright's going for it. He's going to go for it in terms of pursuing his dream which again, his dream was to probably play Major League Baseball, and he's done that. But he also is enjoying the music career, right? He wants to put songs out and sing country songs and had the concert, and he's pursuing that. He's going for it. For all the fear and trepidation that you might have to try something new, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Well, Bill DeWitt III enjoys painting and he said, I'm going to go for it, and painted a really lovely portrait of Adam Wainwright in a Cardinal uniform throwing a pitch that was presented to Wainwright as another gift for him today. Waino talked after the game about how his teammates all chipped in and bought him a nice John Deere riding mower to do his lawn care, so that was cool. He seemed pretty excited about that. The Cardinals also announced $100,000 for Water Mission, which is a organization, charity, however you describe it. In Honduras, they're working to get more clean water access to the people in various places there in Honduras, and so Cardinals contributing to that on behalf of Adam Wainwright and in his honor. And one of the big ones was the puppy. The Cardinals, Bill DeWitt III, kind of coordinated with Jenny Wainwright, his Adam's wife. We know for a long time we've been talking about this dog, and it seems like every time a season ends, is Adam Wainwright going to come back? What's going to be the situation? And we've known for 3 years or so that whenever Wainwright retires, the family's getting a dog. Those kids are getting a dog. The 4 daughters and the son Caleb, they're all getting a dog. Well, knew he was retiring, and so they were able to surprise Adam and the kids today on the field with the puppy. Like, they brought the puppy out there, and that was really cool to kind of see that story come to a conclusion, because we've known, like, hey, when Dad retires, that's going to be the deal, and he's talked about that for a number of years. So kind of cool to see that play out. We were up in the press box, and various people are writing their stories, and Steve Overby, who was sitting to my right by a couple of chairs, writing the Associated Press, he said, "Hey, you know what kind of dog it was?" And I said, "Steve, I don't know, and I'm never going to know," because I'm like, I got to be honest, I probably am not going to get into the weeds on that level to make sure I know the breed of dog. If that makes me like a lackluster reporter, it probably does. But I was like, there's just no way that I'm more of a cat guy anyway, but that's okay. I'm all about it. I like dogs too, just probably not going to own one. But Adam Wainwright and family now does, so that was kind of a cool way to unveil that, and something that everybody knew was eventually coming, but got to see it unfold right there. And so props to Jenny Wainwright for helping to coordinate that kind of and keeping it a secret from the kids. That's the part that I thought was the most fun, that we kind of got to see their genuine expressions on the field when they were surprised by that. Adam was surprised by something else, though, on the field, and it was the presence of Yadier Molina. Kind of wondered, and we talked about this on the KTGR Big Show late last week, if, like, would Yadi be there? And I said, oh, I'm sure he would want to be there. But, like, we hadn't seen or heard from Yadi really since last year. And so it was kind of, in my mind, I think I told my wife, my wife Emily, we all went to the game. My 1-year-old son, that was his first Cardinals game. Technically, he did go to Wrigley Field before Busch Stadium. We're not going to really try to get too much into that, but didn't come home with any Cubs gear, so don't worry about it. But we did take that trip to Chicago month ago or so, and so he did. He's now seen a ball game at both parks. He was in a Cardinals onesie yesterday. Don't freak out on me. My wife made sure of that. But I told her before we went to bed on Saturday night, we're talking about, whether Yadi would be there. And my grandma, huge Yadi fan, and so I didn't think Yadi would be there Saturday, but I knew I would probably need to work the last game of the year on Sunday and not be able to be there as a spectator. So I got everybody the tickets for Saturday, kind of thinking then I would be able to go back and work on Sunday. But my grandma, I feel a little bad because she probably would have liked to have seen Yadi, but we didn't know, right? Like, we didn't know whether he would be there or not. And so I told my wife before we went to bed, I'm like, I think 55-45 you'll be there. So I was leaning yes, but genuinely, we just hadn't heard anything. And then when we get into the clubhouse on Sunday morning, that was kind of the scuttlebutt that he was there, but, like, Wainwright didn't know, and so everybody kind of had to keep a lid on that. And everybody was able to do so, because as John Rooney is out there, master of ceremonies, says it wouldn't be a celebration of Adam Wainwright without two individuals. And then I honestly couldn't tell you what John Rooney said after that, because the crowd noise just got so robust. I was like, oh, we all know what's about to go down. And it was very cool because, again, you kind of knew and assumed that Yadi would make his appearance, but they did a nice job of keeping it under wraps, and Adam was not aware of it. So we'll go ahead here and play a quick audio clip from Adam Wainwright's post-game press conference that he held there in the interview room at Busch Stadium, talking about the Yadi surprise and his reaction to it.
Well, so he hadn't been answering my phone calls or my texts, and I'm going, what the heck? This guy move on in his life? He just forgot about number 50 or what? Like, what did I do, And so I'm starting to think he doesn't like me anymore, and it's because he knew if he answered the phone, he would have given it away. And so now I get it, Now I'm fine with it. I'm glad he didn't answer, but kind of thought he was big leaguing me for a minute there. But when he came out, when you can read if it's on camera, you read my lips when I think it was John Rooney said, let's bring out two other Cardinals. I knew Albert was there, and I knew he wasn't in his seats. I said just a second before that, I said, Jenny, where's Albert? Why is he not out here? And she goes, I don't know. He must have gone ahead and left or something. I don't know if he's here yet. And I was like, what? I just talked to Albert. And then he said two Cardinals, and I was like, Jenny, what does that mean? You read my lips, that's exactly what I said. What does that mean? And when they said Albert and Yadi, and I saw Yadi walk up the steps, I completely lost it. I completely lost it. I couldn't even breathe. I just had to get. I don't even remember what I did. I just think I just was looking down at the ground and just bawling like a baby. You know, he just means a lot to me. You know, it's good to have him here.
So there's Cardinals pitcher Adam Wainwright talking about the surprise that everybody was able to pull off to get Yadi there. Said he's ignoring my phone calls. What's going on with that? But after he sort of put two and two together and realized, yeah, I would have been able to hear it in his voice. I would have been able to tell, like, Yadi would have given away the surprise. So it's pretty cool. And then later on, how about Adam Wainwright taking an at-bat late in the game, and that sort of culminating after the groundswell of support from the Busch Stadium crowd, because it was about the top of the eighth inning when they started showing on the video board the various signs that were referencing wanting to see Adam Wainwright bat. I don't know where that came from. I think it was just maybe they, you know, the production crew of the stadium that's putting together the video board stuff is like, hey, let's show these signs. And I think this actually is what created the moment, because Adam had told Ollie that he, you know, if it's a one-run game, even though it didn't matter for either team, he didn't want to put them in a situation where you maybe cost Miles Michaelis the win. Like Wainwright said, we want to get the win for Miles. One-run game. Ryan Helsley came in and pitched a clean ninth. But, you know, if you had a chance to add on offensively with position players, that would be the preference. And so it was really basically decided that Waino was not going to bat on Sunday as the game kind of went along and it was a close contest. Earlier Sunday morning, Ollie told us in his office, like, he wanted to see it happen again. He said, 11 a.m. Sunday, whatever time we talked to Ollie Marmol, that he would like to see Wainwright bat again, because, of course, he batted Friday, but weren't sure if it was going to happen again on Sunday. Originally, the deal was if the Reds are eliminated, then it could happen, but otherwise, we're going to, respect the game and try to respect the competition at play. But the Cardinals winning on Saturday the way they did eliminated the Reds from playoff contention. So you got to bat on Friday in the blowout. That was the reason on Friday. Sunday, really anything goes, but in a one-run game, he basically said he didn't want to do it. But they show the signs on the VO board, and then they show Waino, and he's kind of looking at the camera, and the expression on his face was priceless, because you could just tell kind of the gears were working in his mind, and everybody, hooping and hollering and wanting to see him bat. And he's just kind of giving that look like, am I going to have to do this? Like, you could just tell it was very fascinating to see in the moment him contemplating what was about to happen. And he said after the game that in the moment he turned to Ollie, kind of gave him a look in the dugout, and Ollie kind of gave a shrug like, yeah, man, you're going to have to bat. Like, it's too much at this point. And so bottom of the eighth rolls around, and then they show Yadi up in, I don't know if he was in the Spanish radio press box in the booth still where Benji and Polo were doing the Spanish broadcast, or if he was in a suite or where he was, but they showed Yadi with a sign that said, I want to see Waino bat. And so Waino actually did not see that sign. He just saw the initial in the top of the eighth when they showed like 3 or 4 different fans that had similar signs throughout the ballpark. He didn't know about Yadi holding up a sign until after the fact. And somebody made a quip to Ollie, did you think that Yadi was done influencing your managerial decisions? That got a pretty good laugh. But Waino didn't actually see Yadi holding up a sign, but the impact was just the same, because Ollie had already kind of made up his mind that this was going to happen. So they pull Jose Fermin back with 1 out in the bottom of the eighth. Irving Lopez was still looking for his first major league hit, so I was thinking, oh, please don't take him out of a chance. He didn't end up getting the hit, but like it would have been kind of crummy to have him thinking he's about to get a crack at it. And, who knows how many more chances he might have. Still a younger guy, younger than me, but you just never know, right? September call-up kind of guy. And so they went with Fermin to pull him back with 1 out, who's got more, he's got a major league hit under his belt already and that kind of thing. Wainwright ends up striking out. He fouled off a couple of pitches. He said, I was wearing, tennis shoes moments before that, so it all kind of came together quickly. Didn't warm up or practice in the same way that he did on Friday with BP and everything to think about having it again, because Wainwright was honestly satisfied. Even though he didn't get a hit on Friday, it was like, I got to bat, hit 102 miles per hour exit velocity. So I think, honestly, in his mind, he had accomplished it. He had gotten the chance, and he was satisfied, content with the way that was going to play out. But the fans on Sunday wanted to see him. We've known for a number of days that he wasn't going to pitch again this season, which means, you've seen the last pitch he's ever going to throw in the big leagues if you were at that game on Monday where he got the win a couple of weeks ago. But to get to see him bat, it was really cool. I don't know about a curtain call after a strikeout at the plate. I don't know if I've ever seen that before today, but now I've seen it, and Wainwright deserved every bit of it. He deserved every bit of everything that he got this weekend because he is the consummate pro, a consummate Cardinal, and you heard a lot in the speeches about what kind of person he is, what kind of human being he is. That, I think, is the thing that he wants to be the lasting impact. And you hear him talk, and, I don't know the best way that I can describe this to Cardinals fans. It's kind of surreal for me, if I can be honest. I don't like to make it about me, but for a moment I will. It's just thinking about today in that clubhouse, I didn't want to leave, Wainwright, by the way, the whole time post-game clubhouse, the way it works on the last day, is all the players are there kind of giving their hugs to each other, I'll see you in Jupiter or whatever, I'll see you, and just kind of saying their goodbyes, packing up their lockers and stuff, and a lot of guys will go their separate ways after this. It's just the reality of a baseball season, a baseball team. Some of those guys they won't see anymore. And so all that's going on, it takes a while. But Wainwright was in full uniform, man, up until the point where the PR staff was kind of all right, media, time to skedaddle. And I think it was 6:17 p.m. before I finally walked out. And I don't know what time the game ended, but it was a 2:10 game that probably didn't start till 2:20 since they had the ceremony. But Wainwright was full uniform, signing baseballs and different things for various teammates and various, he was, I don't know how long he was there, but he was soaking it in and gracious to everybody that wanted to come up to him and offer the congratulations and everything like that. It was just really something to see. But for me, to think about, I told my wife this today too, my favorite player as a kid, I've shared this on the podcast, J.D. Drew. I grew up, for people who aren't familiar with my story, I grew up in the St. Louis area, grew up a Cardinal fan. And J.D. Drew, man, I don't know. I love number 7. I was left-handed like him. And I as a lefty, I could only play, outfield or first base or pitch. And I wasn't big, so I didn't really get many cracks at first base. I do have a first base mitt. Got to play it a little bit because I had good hands. But you want a big target over there, first base. Nevertheless, I was a J.D. Drew guy. That was my guy. And there's still a picture of me floating around somewhere where he did a meet and greet kind of thing in O'Fallon, which is now the ballpark's pretty close to my house. And he had a cast on his hand when taking the picture because he was off injured. But if I've got to type as a baseball fan, you go for the athletic but I guess occasionally injured outfielder. If we're making any comparisons to current players, I think people know what I'm talking about. But anyway, J.D. Drew gets traded for Adam Wainwright, but Adam Wainwright wasn't even the basis of that trade. Ray King, Jason Marquis were 2 big league pitchers at the time. But thinking in the context of my life, I'm 29 years old, and it's been 7 years now that I've been doing this, approaching Cardinals baseball from not a fandom standpoint, but now it's my job and career, and it's a different perspective. But to think that I got to see all of the memorable moments that Adam Wainwright gave Cardinals fans when I was a Cardinals fan as a kid growing up, and then I got to cover him for 7 years and ask him questions about his games, and it's just crazy. It's crazy to think about. And so it was definitely a surreal day at Busch Stadium, and I know a lot of Cardinals fans are going to feel their own version of that, of man, to think about all of the years that Adam Wainwright's just been a constant of Cardinals baseball, has been everything you'd want to see in a Cardinal, right? And the reason I kind of take this personal journey and talk about my perspective of it from today and thinking back to 2006 and where I was when he struck out Beltran and, where I was 2011. I know he was part of that World Series team despite the fact that he was injured that year. But you think about those things in the context of your own life, and it's just very kind of surreal to sit back and go, yeah, last year Albert and Yadi were a big part of all that for a lot of generation of Cardinals fans, right? And then Waino was right there along with them, and now that it's kind of a page turned, and today was the last day of that. But what I think is really cool and really special, and I want to share, and it's not necessarily anything new. You've heard this before about Adam Wainwright, but I can give you my background and say I started covering the Cardinals in 2016, and everything you hear about Adam Wainwright is true. Like, from what you get to see behind the scenes, like, he's that guy. He's as genuine as anybody that you could hope to come across, and that's really cool. And it's not to say that if I'm saying this about Wainwright, I wouldn't say it about other people and positive things about other players and the kind of people they are and stuff. But like, Adam Wainwright is the best of them. You know what I mean? And it's just, you might think that you get into this business and you see the other side of some certain things about baseball or about sports or whatever the case might be. And you go, oh, that kind of wasn't the way I thought it would be or whatever. It wasn't that way at all when it comes to Adam Wainwright. Like, everything I've seen and heard about Adam Wainwright, I mean, it's all legit, man. The guy is 100%. And that's really cool to know. And so, you know that already. I'm not, like I said, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know yourself, but this is nice and cathartic for me to be able to kind of get behind a microphone and go, yeah, it's really cool that everybody, whether you're a Cardinal fan, whether you're Cardinal media that have, covered the team, whatever your role is, it's cool to have gotten to appreciate Adam Wainwright this weekend. Put the ERA to the side, put all the, put 2023, there's a lot you got to compartmentalize about that, but I think it was wonderful to see universally that that's what happened this weekend. I say universally, I guess that's not entirely true because y'all did boo John Mozeliak. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that probably tomorrow a little bit more in depth because I've got takes. Not it's nothing crazy, but some of y'all got to get a grip. Like, for real. Mostly I'm talking to the people that were on Twitter today, not the booers necessarily. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next. What did you guys think? If you were at the stadium and heard the boos, did you participate in the boos? What was your thought process? Because that was kind of funny. I got to say, you got to hand it to John Mozeliak. You do. The comment that he made about, I thought y'all were saying Noop Bar was very funny. I think he's allowed to have a sense of humor about it. Like, if you're getting mercilessly booed during a beloved Cardinals retirement ceremony because, you didn't put together a good enough team this year, which he didn't. That's objective. But if that's happening to you and you're that person and you want to make a little quip about it and kind of be self-referential to it, I think that's pretty funny. So I enjoyed that from Mo this afternoon. If you guys missed it, Bally Sports did a great job of putting up a lot of the video and stuff from the ceremony on Twitter. So head out to that. I also put up something that I don't know. I know they put like 6 or 7 minutes up from Wainwright's post-game press conference after the game, but I don't know that all of that was aired anywhere. I've got a video version of it, like 16 minutes long. I already put it on the Brenden Schaeffer YouTube channel. Find it. It's labeled like full Adam Wainwright press conference or whatever I called it. So if you are interested in that, you can see all of his comments from after the game, including, I was going to play it on this, but I won't. I'll just go ahead and describe it for you. And you guys definitely go check it out if you're interested. But I thought the most poignant moment, a really cool moment, was when they were having the speeches before the game during the ceremony. Chris Carpenter, Cardinals Hall of Famer, obviously longtime teammate of Adam Wainwright, got up to speak, and everybody, again, talks about, he's a great player, better person. And that's kind of the theme when people talk about Adam Wainwright, and it's true. It's not that they're just kind of blowing smoke. That's really, what the reality is of Adam Wainwright. But it was very touching to hear Chris Carpenter and hear him like tear up and get choked up and emotional the way that he did, talking about the way Adam Wainwright helped guide his spiritual journey and in life, right? Led him to become a Christian, I believe, is kind of what took place in a time where Carpenter, and that story's out there. I think Carpenter's done like some I Am Second kind of stuff. But Adam Wainwright basically very instrumental in that. And the story that Carpenter told was basically 2004, some people on the Cardinal staff, this young guy, Adam Wainwright, hey, follow around Chris Carpenter. We'll put your locker next to his, and you kind of learn from him on how to be a pro. And then to kind of hear about the way that Wainwright turned the tables almost over the ensuing years, and that, the fact that Chris Carpenter knew the exact day, April now I don't know the day, April 14th, 2010 or whatever it was. He knew the day and cited it during his speech when he shows up to his locker in the clubhouse and there's a Bible sitting on his chair. And that was, obviously something Adam Wainwright had done and said, he reads that Bible to this day. So that I thought that was cool, whether you're religious person, Christian or not. I don't think you have to be to feel the power of that moment for two people, two close friends, and to just kind of shed a little bit more light on the impact of Adam Wainwright beyond sport. I just think that's really neat because that's kind of the stuff that he's all about. And so that was something I asked Wainwright about after the game in that post-game press conference. That video is like 16 minutes long. You can find it if you scroll back one on my channel. I think it'll be pretty clear which one I'm talking about. But for anybody that's interested in that kind of stuff, otherwise, just really great stuff from today. Yadi didn't have like a big speech planned or anything. And people who kind of know Yadi, he's not like big on the public speaking necessarily. But when Waino made reference to Yadi during his speech, you could just tell that Yadi had that moment of like, all right, screw it. Like I have to go out there and give my props to this guy at the microphone. And so he kind of did like a Kanye West to Taylor Swift moment where he said, I'm going to let you finish. But in his first line was, I'm sorry. Like he said, I'm sorry, but he had a couple of things to say and was very touching and very cool to see just the embrace in the moment and Waino coming back from that after Yadi finishes up and says, I would want for every pitcher to have a relationship like this with their catcher. That would be my wish for any pitcher. So it's cool that you can tell the love between those two is genuine. And it's so interesting to think about, and they've talked about this before too, but like how different the backgrounds are that they come from. The good, the Southern boy, the Georgia boy, and the guy from Puerto Rico, and they turn out to be just the most prolific battery in Major League Baseball history, despite coming from just two different places, two different ways of life, backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. Awesome to see. I mean, that is one of the coolest relationships that you're ever going to find. And it was cool to see that celebrated and everything about Adam Wainwright celebrated today and all weekend, really, at Busch Stadium. The concert I thought was cool. My grandma's commentary was she couldn't really hear Wainwright's like vocals as much because the instrumentals, they got a great sound system there, so it was pumped up for sure. But I know all that, I think he did like 3 songs or so, and that music is out like free, I think, to find. I wish I offhand had the website, but AdamWainwrightMusic.com or something. It's something to that effect. So if that's something that interests you, great. But what did you think? Cardinals fans, let me know in the comments below. What did you think of the weekend? If you were out at Busch, let me know. What was your biggest takeaway, the moment that you're going to remember the most from just this weekend or from Adam Wainwright's Cardinals career in general? Like, it was really cool to get to see all that play out. And for me, really cool to get to just shake his hand at the end of today and say thank you for everything. So I got to do that. A lot of people have stories of having gotten to meet Adam Wainwright, and let them be known. Drop them in the comments as we reflect on the career of Adam Wainwright. My take is you're probably not you're gonna see him around because he'll be at Busch. He'll be fitted for that red jacket in the requisite number of years, however long it is. It'll be that plus 1 day, and he'll be in. It'll be. I hate to be anybody that's left over on the Cardinal Hall of Fame ballot a year that he's going in. And I think they might make some special arrangements to make sure that the trio gets to go into the Cardinal Hall of Fame in the same years. Some rules are made to be broken. Can we agree? I think so. But you'll see him, and you'll see him on the ALDS broadcast, I believe, or AL Wildcard Series. I'm not sure exactly which ones he's doing, but he's going to be doing some more TV stuff. It was kind of cool after his press conference. Brian Bartow, Cardinals PR, said, hey, everybody go up and kind of do a picture. Cardinals wanted to take a picture of the media folks around Wainwright. And he said, well, I mean, I'm in the media now, I guess, so this makes sense. But he'll be doing the color commentary for some playoff games, and it would just not be surprising to see him do more and more. He's got, obviously, that pre-existing relationship with Fox, and so if he's involved in World Series coverage down the road, man, that would not be a surprise to me. For some Cardinals fans who say, oh, he should be the Cardinals announcer, it's like, well, first, they've got, people in those roles already. And the in-game color analyst, kind of like the Brad Thompson role of what Brad Thompson and Jim Edmonds do for Bally, that's kind of the nature of what Waino is going to do on a national level. And it works for him to do that rather than the 162-game grind of a baseball season to be like with the Cardinals or with Bally Sports or KMOX or whatever the case would be, because he just has done that for 18 years and needs some time with his family now. And so I think that's exactly what he's going to do. But I'm sure you'll see him around, and it'll be really cool to kind of continue to get your fix of Adam Wainwright, as I think, again, Cardinals fans will get to do for a long, long time. So Cardinals fans were blessed to have him for as long as they did, and now he gets to rest a little bit. He said he's excited that it's not really the off season now; it's winter is coming, and he gets to have seasons again, and 4 of them, he said: spring, summer, fall, and winter. So that's the wrap. That's all I've got. Appreciate you guys for joining me as always. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I kind of meandered on as I often do, but I'm back in the saddle here. We'll get some more Cardinals podcasts coming. Look, again, I've been teasing for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's been kind of difficult to find something to talk about every day. And I tell you what, man, the last couple of months, just crazy busy in my life. But we're going to get on track. I know I've said this before, but you can trust me on this. Like, there's going to be way too much going on this offseason for me to go, a week or two at a time like I did recently without a podcast. So don't worry, more Cardinals stuff, more B-Shape Daily will be coming down the pike. Appreciate you guys as always for listening. Remember, on YouTube, drop those comments. Let me know what you think of the Wainwright stuff. But that's going to be it for this edition of the show. Thank you guys so much, and we will talk to you next time very soon. You won't have to wait long on B-Shape Daily. Peace.
How much harder is he going to take the result of that at bat than he probably should?
He came back in the dugout and said, "I'm gonna work all winter on my hitting and come back as an outfielder." So.